Damn. Fraud and getting ripped off. How many of us have had our credit cards compromised or other stuff stolen? That's what we're talking about this week on the Trucking Risk and Insurance podcast. That's next. Come on, Meghann.
Welcome to the Trucking Risk and Insurance podcast.
Meghann, welcome to the Trucking Risk and Insurance podcast. Can you please introduce yourself to our viewers and listeners?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you guys for having me today. My name is Meghann Earhart, and I'm Executive Vice President at Relay Payments. Really, the easiest way to describe Relay is that we are modernizing payments for the trucking and logistics industries. So while we have gotten used to paying with our phones and ease of use and all of those types of things, the trucking and logistics industries have not been as lucky until really Relay came along. And so we are acting as a way to create digital payments throughout all of the industry, whether that be to replace the checks, replace cash, also to help with fraud. And we're really excited to be on here with you guys today. Thank you for having me.
Well, because fraud is what we are talking about today.
Now, there's lots of it.
Oh, God. Now, Relay, just to kind of summarize Relay, on the website, it says you do a lot of payments for lumpers and those types of people. What's your connection to fuel cards?
Yes, so the company started in lumper payments. So our founders 5.5 years ago spent endless hours on docks trying to figure out what was going on with transactions and how to make it better and how to handle it from a digital standpoint. When we started that company and we started with the lumper payments, very quickly we got out of the fraud situation of, those checks can sort of take magic carpet rides. Those checks are basically cash, to where if you say they're worth $500 and the lumper receipt is only $350, then the admins have to go find that $150. We took that out of the equation. It's no longer cash. The receipts are instantaneous. So we built a great customer base, and then they came back to us and said, wow, okay, you made our life easier. Can you help us with other things? So we then went into the broker to carrier payment. So that is out there in the wild. We call it Relay Direct. And then we went live with our fuel payment program. And what that platform is it is a fraud-free solution for paying. So why fuel billing cards? Why am I here talking to you guys about it? Well, the biggest thing is there's no plastic. There's no card. Everything's digital. Think Venmo for trucking, but able to turn on pumps, able to do transactions. So we have been out of stealth mode for about 14 months. We still, to this day, have not had a single fraudulent transaction. Now, I knock on wood to make sure that, okay. But we take it very, very seriously. We stand behind it to our customers. We stand behind it to our merchant customers. And what that has allowed us to do is grow very rapidly in how people pay for fuel. I was on the phone, and we might get into it, but I was on the phone earlier today with a merchant, and they're like, hey, we need some help. We've got to speed this up because we want to make sure that our customers have a solution that works for them. And so we're really excited to be growing our network. And really exciting, especially for me, because of my past background, to be helping this industry and be helping truck drivers and trucking companies of all sizes to be able to not have to worry about fuel fraud. They've got enough stuff to worry about right now. John, Chris, you guys know there's a lot going on in this industry. So whatever we can do to help them not have to worry about something else in their day, that's what we're.
Well, I was going to say, from a fraud perspective, some of the things that I've learned and heard of and whatnot, and one would be particular from an owner-operator I'm acquainted with. And through his company, they have access to advances, cash, and whatnot so that they can purchase their fuel. And what they do is they have a company card that they will take and load money onto from their account into that card, use that card to purchase fuel. And this fella has been, had some fraud a couple of times to the point now where he literally is rolling up to the pump and he is doing a transfer from his phone to his account to this card so that he can get out and do the card in order to buy $300 worth of fuel. And he won't leave any more money on that card than he has to, and basically burns it up every time. And he said he gets frustrated because he's had to replace the card several times due to fraud and whatnot. So this sounds like a solution that eliminates that altogether.
Yeah, 100% it does. Think about it. So probably about 9 months ago, we've got an 18-year-old and a 15-year-old, both daughters, and we gave the oldest one a credit card, right? She started driving. She went to go buy gas at a gas station that she doesn't normally go to. Not one affiliated with Relay, by the way.
Yep.
Just one on her way to a football game.
Yep.
And 2 days later, she was in San Antonio buying fuel.
Oh, wow. Interesting. That was cool.
Right? Man, I didn't know that she could make it that quick.
Yeah.
So what happened? We get an alert on our phone. We say, no, that's not ours. We shut down all of the cards because my husband and I have the same card she does.
Sure.
That account now can be used. We then say, okay, can you send us those cards? It takes 3 business days to get the cards. So the fraud happened on Friday, or the swipe happened on Friday. On Saturday, we get alerted to fraud. We don't get the cards till Wednesday.
Right.
That's a pain in the rear for us. Right?
Yeah.
It's just annoying.
Yeah.
But to a truck driver, they're not going to be home for 17 days.
Exactly.
So what happens to your friend when he can't use that card?
Yep.
Well, he then has to figure out how to do the transactions. He's probably going to use either a personal credit card or cash or a check product. And when he does that, he doesn't get his discount.
Right.
And so
Correct.
now he's paying more per gallon.
Yep.
In a time frame in our industry that is the hardest that has ever happened.
Mm-hmm.
And all because he has to replace his card that he doesn't even have any money on, John.
Right.
Money. And so what does that do? Okay, that makes his life harder. That makes him anxious. That makes him have to think, oh, now I got to check my bank account to make sure that no one got my bank account. And then what's going to happen? All of that. Well, give him my number, John.
Yep.
And let's make sure that we get him on Relay.
Yeah.
Because we have those situations. There's no card to swipe.
Right.
There's nothing that can be skimmed. Everything is done with, we do algorithms in the background. So we're doing constant checks. But we also have things like geo-fencing. We have prompts. We have policies, all of the things that a classic billing card would have. But we've got the power behind it to make sure that there's not fraud involved. So that was a very long answer to your question.
Yeah.
I hope it explained it just a little bit. I'm a little passionate about this, if you can't tell.
No, I can't see that at all.
Let me ask an unscripted question, and these always get dangerous.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, because hopefully the right answer. Do you work with Canadian and U.S. companies?
We do. So, but we only today are processed in the United States as it stands today. But we have Canadian customers. We also have Mexican customers that if they cross the border, they can utilize Relay when they cross the border. We can handle the fund transfers. We can do all of that. So we are able to do that. And I spent a lot of time in a past life up in Canada. I know how crazy it can be, how the border crossings work, all of that. And so we definitely make sure that we take care of our friends north of the border. But right now we're only accepted in the United States.
Well, and that's fine for like most of my customers, as we discussed. I'm in Southern Ontario, so most of them can fuel up at their own yard, head right down to the border, cross the border. They don't need fuel yet for several more hours. They're deep into the U.S. before they need to fuel up. And so your services would be welcome. Can you tell me, how does fraud occur?
Oh, fuel fraud specifically is a multifaceted situation. So I am careful with this question. I get this question a little bit. I don't
Well,
want to
we
give
don't want
anybody.
to
Yes,
educate the criminals.
Yeah,
Exactly.
that's exactly right. What I will say is it comes in all different shapes, sizes, and forms. It comes in, there's first party fraud, right? What I mean by that is there are bad apples out there that they will take that nozzle and they will go hand it to their buddy and they'll take $50, right? Nobody can handle that. Nobody can prevent that from happening. The only thing we can do is make sure that we have the limits on there properly from a policy standpoint, to where the owner of the company would get flagged if something is too high, or they can only do so many gallons of fuel or so many dollars of fuel before it stops. There's that kind of fraud. Then there's third party fraud. Those are the ones like that unfortunately got my daughter's credit card, which was, a swipe. They grab it off of the mag reader. They do something like that. And that's harder to catch. I will say the merchants are doing a good job of trying to get ahead of it. The operators that are out there across the U.S., sadly, they're very well versed in that. But it still happens. And one swipe and you're done, right? Like my daughter, when she did that one transaction, she uses Apple Pay 99% of the time. But that pump didn't have Apple Pay. So the one time she swiped her card in probably 6 weeks was the time that she got skimmed. But it happens all the time. We get it too, right? Think about it. You leave your credit card somewhere, right? And then you're like, crap, I left it at that restaurant and it disappeared. So there's a lot of different ways that it can happen. It can happen in all industries. It happens to all of us. Those of us that travel, whether that be a truck driver who's going across the borders and across the countries, they're traveling. They're in a lot of different places. It is really hard to check all of your apps, all of the transactions, and it does not take long for these criminals to do a lot of damage. And so we really educate our customers on how to set up their fuel program with us in a way that ensures that they get alerted, that a way that ensures that even first party fraud and third party fraud are taken into account, so that we're protecting them. Right now, again, I'm being repetitive on purpose. It is too hard in this industry for them to have money stolen from them. It is too hard in this industry to be like, oh, let me check all of my driver's transactions every single day when they're trying to find a load of freight that puts them in cash flow positive.
Right.
Yeah, no, it's, as you alluded to, it's too damn hard to make a profit, especially right now in this economy. I don't know of any trucking company that is sitting back going, damn, this is good.
Yeah.
Especially if they're using the load broker market. Maybe they are making a good profit if they have some contracts out there, but not every trucking company has contracts.
No.
They use load brokers, especially on the backhauls. So making keeping fuel.
And even if we are making good money, the last thing I want to do is give it away to some fraudsters. That's for sure. So, yeah. So I'm curious, can you explain to me, because I'm trying to get this through my head, how this works? So, you're pulling up to a pump. Obviously, you've got to be partnered with that fuel supplier and the carrier first. But, I pull up to the pump and normally I get out and swipe my credit card or whatever fuel card I got. How does it work from a digital perspective?
Yeah, it's a great question. We break a geofence. So a carrier can create an account with us. They can get their merchant negotiated discount that they have done directly, or ones that we provide that we've negotiated on behalf of our customers. Either or, they can choose what they want. They then set up their policies. So they might ask for odometer reading. They might ask for truck number. They might ask for Load number has been a big one lately. That's been added, I think, a lot because of the safety and security that's out there with loads. So what they do, that's all set up. Then let's say I'm a driver and I am driving down the road and I need to fuel. Our mobile app has all of our locations along with pricing. They can see real-time pricing. They can see net price, meaning we all in the industry know about discounts, right? Oh, the larger discount, the better. Not necessarily, right? What you really care about is the cost of the fuel per gallon or liter that you're putting in your trucks. But a lot of people follow that sexiness of the discount versus the actual net price. So we show net price to our carriers and to our drivers. Let's say they get off at an exit. They have two choices. Both of them accept relay. They choose the lesser one. When they go into that, basically when they turn off of the road, it breaks the geofence. At that moment in time, it says, we see you at site ABC. And it then says, here are the prompts. So you cannot put in your prompts. You cannot put in anything. You can't even get to a code until you break that geofence, enter the prompt the carrier said. And then once you pull in, you have a certain amount of time for that code to be used at that location only. So I mentioned the magic carpet ride earlier.
Yep.
Well, we prevent the magic carpet ride because once you have, let's say you have turned right and you've broken the geofence, you've put in your driver number, you've put in your odometer, and then you realize, oh crap, like they're backed up. I'm not going to be able to be. And you go to that second location across the street, it won't work. That code won't work. We make them re-enter it once they re-break the geofence. That other code is now tossed. The new code is what they can do. And they go to the pump or they go inside, they give them that relay code and the pump turns on for the amounts that they. And that code is only good one time. So it is churn and burn code. That is a safety feature that we have put on there so that it can't be used again.
Right. Cool. Okay.
It sounds like it's secure payment just because the codes are never reused and are geofence or are tied into a geofence.
Yeah.
Yes. And we really want at least one prompt. So we coach our carriers like, hey, we know that we're taking on the risk here, but just put at least one prompt. No driver. Then you have all of these things. We also have ELD integrations. We've got TS integrations. And so we work with all aspects of really the carrier base to make sure that they're happy and they get what they need.
Well, a little bit of aggravation to enter a few prompts can save you a ton of aggravation later on. So to me, it's in best practice to say, yeah, you know what, let's have 3 or 4 prompts in there or more or whatever, to make it simple and easy. I want to make sure it's my driver that's getting that fuel.
That's right. And for the most part, the drivers understand, right?
Yeah.
I know we were talking in the pre-show, but every driver that I know of wants their company to be number one, safe.
Yep.
And number 2, financially viable. Right? Exactly. You pay your drivers first, you pay your fuel bill second, and you cannot haul freight without those 2 things.
Right.
And so because you can't, it is important to keep those drivers to where, yes, you're right, maybe it's a little bit aggravating, but it also keeps that company in a position to where they can pay your paycheck.
Sure. Exactly.
And I mean, we all know what such a pain in the ass it is to switch employers all the time.
Yeah.
So this small little step of keep my employer financially viable, from my point of view, can help not just my employer, but help all my fellow drivers and everything else within my organization, so I don't have to switch employment again. And maybe they can afford to pay me on time and a good driver rate.
That's right. And we take drivers really seriously. Like we take fraud seriously. We take drivers seriously. And our customer service is a foundation that we built the company on. And one of those is we actually onboard every driver for our companies, our carriers that sign up with us. So we send them text messages. We send them videos of how the pump transaction is going to work. So everything I just walked you through.
Sure.
But then we call them and we make sure that they don't have questions. We make sure that
Right.
their first transaction went well. We've got a 24/7, 365 customer service line that actually knows how to handle the problem.
Cool.
Right. And so we make sure that we're really focused on the driver experience as well as a carrier experience, and then also the accounting experience. If the accountants aren't happy, it is not a good situation with any vendor, right? And so we make sure that we make sure that they are part of the success criteria, just as operations is, just as the drivers are.
Right. Cool.
So it sounds like you tackle all three, with the driver experience being first, the company experience kind of not being second, but closely tied to the accounting experience because they're one and the same, basically.
Yeah.
So what else, as we start to wrap up the show, Meghann, what else should we know about Relay and the whole experience that you offer?
So customer service is a foundation of what we do. So is great technology, and so is security. So we believe that the money needs to go to the right places with a technology that is far superb over our competitors, and that we answer the phone in less than 30 seconds. We make sure that we can help our drivers. We understand that they have to be safe on the road. We understand and respect what they do for a living. And so being a person that says, have a great day, be safe. And being safe means the drivers on the road, but it also means the money that they're bringing in. And so we really made that a core foundation of how we do the business. We're incredibly transparent in the fees that we charge. We're incredibly transparent on what we do. And we are also very rapidly growing. So I've gotten asked a couple times, like, hey, with the growth that you have, certainly your customer service is going to fall. I'm like, I laugh. And I'm like, oh, we hired customer service based on where we thought we were going to be months ago, because they have to get trained and they have to be ready and they have to be able to answer. And we don't slip on customer service.
Right.
So we're proactively staying ahead of that, knowing where we're going as a company. We're growing our technology. We're growing our merchant base. So today we're accepted at a little over 1,500 locations. That is going to very rapidly increase in the next, let's call it 60 days or less. So hopefully you'll see it, and it is coming. And then we continue to make sure that we're increasing our carrier base and listening to them. They are a part of what we do. We have friendly customers that have been a part of every product and have told us what works and what doesn't, and we have adjusted according to them. So we listen as well. And we're excited. We're excited by where this is headed. We're excited to talk to folks like you and your customer base, to be able to support this industry and modernize. Really, I mean, to me, selfishly, I think it's the greatest industry in the U.S. I would like to make their lives better.
Well,
Sure.
I mean, obviously, John and I both agree with you that trucking is the greatest industry in the U.S. And one of the worst industries is the fraudsters, the criminals out there. And so you are tackling that part of the industry head on. And for that, I thank you, because damn it, they should be put out of business, not the trucking companies.
Exactly.
I agree.
Oh,
Yeah.
Meghann.
Well, and I was sorry, Chris, I was going to say one good thing is you're currently working with Canadian clients that are operating in and out of the U.S. So that's a big plus right there, and a huge step forward to bring that North American market together.
Absolutely.
Well, and all of our U.S. listeners are certainly welcome to reach out And your contact info is in the show notes down below. And so whether you're Canadian or American, it doesn't really matter.
Yep.
Fraud hits us all equally. And if you want to do something about it, you might want to get some more information. And therefore, Meghann's contact info is in the show notes down below.
Perfect.
All right. Meghann, thanks so much for coming on the Trucking Risk and Insurance podcast.
Thank you guys for having me, and for all your listeners, stay safe out there, and thank you for what you do.
Thanks, Meghann, so much for coming on the show. And if you enjoyed the show, please click like and subscribe. But probably more important, leave us a comment. What would you like to hear on upcoming episodes of the Trucking Risk and Insurance podcast? Thanks so much. John and I appreciate it. We are out of here.